Welcome to In Conversation with Pilvi Torsti. So I'm Pilvi Torsti, Director of the European Training Foundation, ETF. And this series is our space for open, timely conversations with the leading thinkers and policymakers that we really believe shape the future of education, skills, and societies at large. My guest today is someone whose voice has been particularly, I think, both strong but also clear in the issues related to technology, democracy, crossroads of policy and political decision-making. So it's Timo Harakka, member of the Finnish Parliament, who has also served in his life as a Minister of Employment and the Minister of Transport and Communications. Widely respected journalist and author in Finland, the most recent book being timely Data Capitalism in a World of Crises. I think it's really a must read for anyone who is trying to understand how data, AI, and geopolitics are actually reshaping really the world we live in and also the future of the world. So it's really a pleasure to welcome you here today, Timo. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the compliments as well.
Let me start actually going back to some decades. So you were raised in a small industrial town in central Finland by two parents who both actually couldn't hear and used sign language as their language. So how do you think this journey that has taken you then to write about data capitalism, journalism, being a prominent politician, how did your early years shape your journey?
Well, having deaf parents is obviously something that has a strong effect on your childhood and life in general. Sign language being my mother tongue, very useful here in Italy actually. Seriously, I think this has led me to have a certain worldview of seeing the world through a lens of either a disabled community or then a minority in general. So I somehow feel that I get the feeling of, let's say, immigrants or other minorities easier than some other people.
I must say that when I learned this fact about your past, it made me also to understand sort of, you better, that you can express yourself in different ways. And I think it's always helpful when we have these different points of departure and we share them because they actually help the communication between people in general as well. Well, coming then to the really themes and topics of today. So let me start with the data capitalism and the future of work. Your book starts with the premise that we are now living in the era of data capitalism. What do you think that means really for the future of work?
I think capitalism as a form of organizing societies has proven to be very resilient, and the kind of dominant mode of capitalism has just changed. And we are moving from fossil capitalism towards digital or data capitalism, which means that oil or resources are not necessarily the most important capital in the world, but data is. And that has really changed things. If you think about the most valuable companies in the world, so 100 years ago they were oil companies, or actually a decade ago they were oil companies, but now they all share the characteristics of gathering data, processing data, refining data, selling data, and doing whatever things you can do with data. And suddenly this has been the most valuable thing in the world. And if you think about the valuations of Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they just blow your mind.
And if we sort of accept this analysis as data, new kind of oil, but with certain complexities that you've described, how do you see the tensions then in the field of employment and skills?
Well, data also has effect in the workplace, quite obviously. So we have algorithmic leadership, algorithmic domination in workplace. We have these platform workplaces, and I was very active in promoting the platform work directive in the European Union to kind of make sure that we don't have two separate job markets. One that would have the social security, as in retirement, sick leave, or the rights of collective bargaining, and the other part of the job market without all these rights, and particularly those very much affected of immigrants. So I'm very happy that the Finnish High Court just recently announced that the food couriers are actually employees of that platform instead of being some kind of entrepreneurs by their own right, which has, I think, very, very profound implications for the future.
Moving then to the AI and chat GPT. In your book, again, there is a chapter, the chat GPT moment, and you reflect on the sudden visibility of AI. How do you see the generative AI reshaping the labor market?
The jury is still out there. All we know is that it's going to be very transformative, but then there's one school of thought that says that the world has gone through several technological upheavals before, and that has not produced any mass unemployment, but just kind of upskilling, reskilling, and new jobs in the place of old jobs. And then there's also the school that says that this time is different, that AI will certainly destroy a lot of jobs. But I'm not sure about the quantity, but I'm quite sure of the quality. And I have the fear that a lot of work will be of much less quality than what we're used to. But we have the humanoid robots that will do a lot of more of the manual work, even those tasks that require dexterity and some stuff that they haven't been able to do yet. This could also mean that a lot of people will get more meaningful jobs as well, and something that's more rewarding and societally better.
In the book, you call regulating killer algorithms and hence then building the trust economy. So in your view, what would a trust-based digital ecosystem really look like, and are we very far from it at the moment?
I differentiate three models of capitalism and data capitalism in the world. The one is the American model, which I think the motivation is to conquer, and the other one is Chinese model. The motivation is to control. And I hope that the Europeans have a third model that is based on collaboration. Now, some say that regulation, so writing the rule book, is something that is not really important. I think that's hugely important to really bring out the trust in people, to say, well, okay, we have a level playing field and we know what kind of human rights and individual rights are being taken into account of. And sometimes the absence of rule book is seen as a great thing, but I see that US, having been unable to regulate, is not really very ideal if we think about ordinary citizens and communities. So I think Europe is very in a good place.
If we continue from that being in a good place in Europe and then have a look through the lens of education and education systems, how can we promote then this type of sort of critical digital literacy skills to precisely enhance that type of interpretation also of the new technological opportunities that you just described?
As long as we have cohesive communities and decent education, decent schools, and also respect, I think we will manage. We'll be fine. I think the European tradition, very old tradition of skepticism and critical analytical thinking, is more valuable than ever, and particularly in these times when digital tools can produce incredibly credible deep fakes, and a lot of this information is disseminated all over the place, not least by Mr. Musk himself or Mr. Trump himself. So we need these faculties more than ever.
You proposed the idea of Helsinki effect, a global push for transparency and accountability in the digital sphere. So do you see EU could take the lead in this movement?
I don't see much alternative in this, actually. As I said earlier, there needs to be a European alternative to US and Chinese models, which is much more human-centric. And when Finland was the EU president back in 2019, the human-centric data economy was something that we were promoting. And I'm glad to see that in the cascade of data regulation that followed during the last mandate, a lot of the ethic backgrounds respecting human rights and individual rights and communities and citizens, full political participation were presented by the Finnish presidency.
Here at ETF, while of course we follow closely this radical paradigm shift that we experience geopolitically, we also try to see further ahead, do foresight exercises, and we often ask how could the world look like in 2050? How would you describe a scenario that is desirable but yet you think is realistic while we live in these times that are so unpredictable at the time?
I think the desirable future for the next 25 years would be the return of multilateralism. Coming from a small country, we appreciate European Union and the institutions of European Union, such as ETF, bringing together multilateral interests and commonalities to even kind of start thinking of common goods, global goods, and how we can promote those instead of having this transactionalist world where the strongest dictates his will, his will to other countries.
Well, I will give some hope for that vision. Last week we had in the room from 6 Western Balkan countries the social dialogue partners, civil society organizations. And when they were asked what do they think the EU could bring the most to the region, the answers were not first economy and such benefits, but peace, security and stability. And that's of course hope, but at the same time seen as realistic future aspiration as well.
I think it's really great if European Union is seen as a provider of those global goods. So at least whether it's realistic or not, that is exactly the place we want to be.
Well, we have one tradition in this in conversation with Pilvi Torsti. So the last guest leaves a question for the next without knowing who is the next guest. And today, a question for you comes from a Deputy Minister of Ukraine, Minister in charge of Youth and Sport, Andriy Chesnokov. And he has left a question that goes as follows. How can we ensure that youth voices are effectively integrated into policy-making process, particularly in post-conflict reconstruction efforts?
Wow, this is a great question from my friends in the Ukrainian government. I've had the great privilege and honor to work with and support the best we can, and certainly want to be part of the reconstruction of Ukraine, and there needs to be a brighter future. And that means that particularly if you live in a conflict area, no one kind of thinks that the future will automatically provide great things. Having that experience, I'm sure that every piece of reconstruction, institute building and legislation will take into account the future generations whom they think and hope will have a better life that they were able to lead under these circumstances.
And then, Timo Harakka, if I could invite you to leave a question for our next guest, and you take a moment and write it down for us.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to check it now. We'll leave it.
All right. Good.
So, Timo Harakka, thank you so much for this insightful conversation. I think your perspective about the digital transformation really needing to be human-centric resonates a lot with the work we do at ETF. We really try to look into the future 10, 20 years, see what's there, but then coming back to the sort of daily systems and system developments of the countries for their people. So from regulation to trust, skills to really societal values, I think we covered it all, but these kind of conversations really must continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a great privilege.
So this was In Conversation with Pilvi Torsti. Till next time. Thank you.